On Tuesday, North Korea launched a two-stage intercontinental ballistic missile, which U.S. intelligence officials have classified as something never before seen from the Hermit Kingdom. Also later this week, Donald Trump and Vladimir Putin will hold an official meeting together while attending the G20 summit in Germany. And all of this happening as a majority of Americans say the president's Twitter habit is hurting his agenda and the nation. Let's get to it as I'm joined by Representative SteveRussell, Republican of Oklahoma. He's a decorated veteran of the United States Army, retired as lieutenant colonel after 21 years of service. He serves on the House Government Oversight and Armed Services Committees, and he joins me from Oklahoma City. Steve, North Korea and that ballistic missile, Secretary of State Tillerson says this represents a new escalation of a threat to the United States. What should What should Trump do?
Well, there's no question it is an escalation, but I think it would be a mistake for the United States to make any concession that would reward bad behavior on our part. What would that entail? Halting exercises or troop stationing, anything dealing with our defenses on the peninsula or halting our anti-missile defenses. We cannot negotiate good behavior against bad, and we cannot go that direction.
Do we go further? Do we make threats to North Korea?
I think that we have to put every sanction on the table. We continue to partner with our friends China. They no more want a volatile peninsula than we do. Their approach to it is a little more problematic, being their next door neighbor. They're having to deal with those issues, but I think that we can work through those. What we don't allow, though, is for China to convey a North Korean desire for us to weaken our defenses on the peninsula while they promise that they will somehow curtail their bad behavior on missile development and on nuclear development.
Do you think North Korea would do an idiotic thing like attack either South Korea or the United States?
I think that one thing that history has taught me, Larry, is that dictators often will miscalculate. They surround themselves with people that want to stay alive, and those people advise them that, oh yes, what a brilliant decision, you are the man. And then you can only listen to so much of that, then you begin to believe them. If you look at the trail of dead dictators and destroyed countries, you will see this consistency. And I think that with North Korea, it has to be very clear from all sides, whether it's the United States, China, Russia, wherever, that if they make these actions and they strike, that North Korea will be obliterated. It has to be clearly understood, because the other thing dictators have in common is that they all want to survive. And Kim Jong-un is no different. He wants to survive. So we let him know that that is impossible. He cannot survive if he should ever strike with nuclear weapons, or if he should ever strike with conventional weapons to South Korea or any of our allies.
Okay, switching gears, what do you expect from the Trump-Putin meeting Friday?
Expect, or what would we like to see, I guess
both.
Is the question. Expectations, I don't know. I'm very encouraged that H.R. McMaster is one of the national security advisors, the national security advisor to the president. He knows the situation in the region very well. But I think the president would be well served if he would immediately lay down the non-negotiables with Russia. What would those be? Article 5, sacrosanct, can't violate it. The other thing is sanctions. We desire to lift some of them. However, that's not going to happen until Russia abides by the agreements with Ukraine, with Donetsk and Donbass and the other areas. Same way with Abkhazia and Ossetia and Georgia. Sanctions cannot be lifted until they hold up their end of the bargain. So those would be the non-negotiables, and just lay them out very clearly, saying nothing will change there. But here are the negotiables. What does a post-ISIS Syria look like? Russia has influence in the region, has had for 40 or 50 years with their port at Tartus and the airfield at Latakia. That's been well understood and well known that they have ports there in the Mediterranean. So we acknowledge that that those bases will be there, and that is an area of influence that Russia continues to have. For our part, with the Free Syrians and other allies in the coalition, we would reduce Raqqa. On their part, they would remove Assad from any post-ISIS Syrian governance, and then from there we can work on how a post-Syrian would look like if we have the major players of the United States, Russia, Turkey, the other allies, where we could have a more friendly coalition of aid in helping the Syrian people get back on their feet. Those are common ground things that we can get to. But Russia will not be interested in any of that if they somehow feel that their bases are threatened in Syria. They've had them for 50 years. We just acknowledge it. This was something that should have been done some time ago, but unfortunately it wasn't, and that's, I believe, why Russia invaded, was to protect those bases.
Are you concerned that the president, not to put him down, might be in a little over his head with someone as veteran of all of this as Putin?
You know, Putin will have that mystique about him, but by the same token, President Trump will have a mystique about him as well. The idea of what will he be thinking, what will he do, what will he say, all of those things can work to your favor in a negotiation. But what's key is each side lays down the non-negotiables. Once that's established, then you don't negotiate from those positions. You negotiate on what's in between. And there's a lot in between that the United States and Russia could get to. A post-ISIS Syria and Iraq is certainly one of them that we all have a common interest in that we could work on. In terms of NATO and economics and you know, those types of things, there are non-negotiables there that have to be clearly established. And once they are, then you can get to the economic questions after you establish the security questions.
Does the president bring up the possible hacking of the election?
I think there's a lot of people that would desire all of that to be done, but here's the simple truth, Larry, is that Russia has tried to get in and influence all kinds of elections. They're doing it in NATO countries, in the newer added Eastern European countries, even you could say the older NATO countries. They're doing it in the Republic of Georgia, Bulgaria, Ukraine. This is nothing new that we've seen. Now, it doesn't mean that we like it or that we condone it, but I think in terms of it ought to be a mutual understanding. Look, you want to go monkeying around with these things, this is only going to create more problems for everybody, and it's going to cause counter actions on our part, much like the Cold War days, which really didn't serve anybody.
No.
So I think we can get to something that is better than that. But as far as entering our domestic squabbles and this food fight between the president and the media, we don't need to take that overseas in these negotiations. There's too many important things to discuss.
Steve, always love talking to you. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Likewise.